The search goes on for the gun that killed Ellie Edwards on Merseyside. Police are appealing for information about the weapon that caused the death of the innocent 26-year-old out with friends at her local pub on Christmas Eve. Also tonight, still no end in sight for the transport strikes, but today, for most, disruption was minimal. A virtual revolution in cancer care, the technological advance that could pave the way to a breakthrough. And
you are an investment banker.
Well, I don't think there's any call for insults or name-calling.
a modest man who mocked the rich and powerful. Farewell to the satirist John Bird, pillar of the anti-establishment.
This is ITV News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. 4 days after the fatal shooting of a woman on Merseyside, police are still hunting for the gun her killer used. Ellie Edwards was shot in a pub on Christmas Eve. Officers say she was not the intended target and that they will not rest until there is justice for Ellie. From Wallasey, Rachel Townsend reports.
For a third day, Ellie's family returned to the place where she was fatally shot. Today, her father and brother embraced after reading messages left in memory of the 26-year-old beautician. In a press conference held by Merseyside Police outside the Lighthouse Inn in Wallasey, their Deputy Chief Constable revealed the gun used to kill Ellie and injure 4 others has not yet been recovered.
We will not rest until we bring the offenders to justice. And by that I mean the person who pulled the trigger of the gun in the most indiscriminate way on Christmas Eve. Anybody who was responsible for arranging, facilitating or harbouring this individual, and anybody who continues to withhold information on who has done this, or indeed where the weapon is that has led to this tragic fatality.
Reverend Jeff Hughes preaches just a stone's throw from the Lighthouse Inn and senses the mood in the community here is now changing.
Do you think now that initial shock is turning into perhaps anger?
Yeah, I think so. One response to anger is revenge. You want to see justice done, and obviously we do want to see that. And that's the sort of revenge I think we need to be focusing on. But I think the best use of the anger is to change, to try and work towards change.
Detectives still have a man and a woman in custody and have applied for more time to question them. But they want more people to come forward. They say any bystanders in Ellie's murder also have blood on their hands. Rachel Townsend, News at 10.
Disruption was kept to a minimum today at UK airports and on the railways too after another staff walkout. Border Force and rail workers from the TSSA union are on strike in ongoing disputes over their working conditions and their pay. And the end of the year will not see the end of industrial action. Next week, the RMT will walk out again. With the latest, here's Sejal Karia.
They were on the front line of a picket rather than patrolling the border today, as 1,000 Border Force staff at Britain's largest airports began a second wave of strikes, calling for a 10% pay rise to weather the cost of living crisis.
2%, quite frankly, is an insult, and all our members feel the same. None of us want to be picketing, none of us want to go on strike, we just want to be recognised for what we do.
There was limited disruption, we're told, as a result, because military personnel and civil servants were checking passports instead. But it's not just airports. More misery lies ahead for rail passengers in the new year too, as RMT members go on strike for 4 days, and train drivers with the ASLEV union stage a 24-hour walkout on the 5th of January. While rail workers at Great Western and West Midlands trains go on strike today and tomorrow, with more planned next month, and driving instructors continue a rolling walkout.
A bit annoying really, Everything seems to be up the chute at the moment, doesn't it?
I think all the strikes are inconvenient, but they're meant to be, aren't they? That's the point. And I think if people aren't being paid properly, then I understand why they strike.
Downing Street is once again urging unions to call off strike action. Those representing workers say the government need to put more money on the table. There's no sign yet of a resolution. Sejal Karia, ITV News.
The US has announced travellers from China will have to test negative for COVID before entering the country. The new rules will come into force on January the 5th, following a surge in infections in China. Yesterday, Beijing announced it will start reissuing passports for tourism for the first time since the start of pandemic. The US is joining Italy, Japan, India, Malaysia and Taiwan in requiring some form of COVID testing for passengers arriving from China. Here in Birmingham, 2 men have been arrested after a man was stabbed to death in a nightclub. Cody Fisher was in Crane nightclub in Birmingham when he was killed. Police believe he was approached by a group before being attacked. He was pronounced dead half an hour later. In a statement, his family said they are heartbroken. Pope Francis has asked for prayers for his predecessor, Pope Benedict. Pope Francis made the announcement that Benedict is very sick this morning before going to visit him. The Vatican spokesman later said Benedict's health had worsened and he's currently being attended by doctors. The former Pope, who's now 95, stepped down in 2013, the first Pope in 600 years to resign. Now, an unlikely alliance of video game designers and cancer researchers has given visual form to spreadsheet data, which could pave the way for a revolution in the way the disease is treated. Using the same virtual reality technology, which allows gamers to turn their bedrooms into battlefields, a team at Cambridge University is offering scientists the chance to step inside tumours. Numbers are transformed into an interactive picture, giving completely new perspectives on cancers. And it could turn out to be a diagnosis game changer, as Deborah Cohen reports.
And that's the sample.
This is the moment a Cambridge University student stepped inside a tumour for the first time. It just looks like a colourful matrix of dots, but it's actually a computer-generated image of a real patient's cancer.
This is just the connective tissue.
Dr. Dario Bresson is one of the team behind the model and was awarded a grant by the Cancer Grand Challenges initiative run by Cancer Research UK.
So this is a three-dimensional model of an early breast cancer from a patient. Every individual spot that you see here is a different cell, and the shape and the color correspond to the cell type. So this is literally what you would see if you could enter the body and see the tumor as it was arranged spatially.
Normally when tumours are studied, they're viewed in 2D, but this enables researchers to see them in a more visual way. Cancer cells might take different forms, and these different types are highlighted here in pink and turquoise. Scientists say looking at where these cells form helps them to understand more about tumours. To help create a virtual reality tumour, scientists have collaborated with a wide range of people, including astronomers and video gamers.
It's so much easier to notice differences, to notice features, to notice peculiarities when you're actually in a thing than when you're looking at it through a spreadsheet or a photograph. You can see how a certain type of cell might be beside a blood vessel or a milk duct, and that might be important for the future prognosis of that patient.
All this looks fantastic, but isn't it just a gimmick?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that was a question when we started this, but we showed that the arrangement of cells within a tumor actually had prognostic power. It could predict outcome for patients in a way that was better than we could do with other techniques.
These are still early days, but scientists here hope that we'll be using tools like this to guide better treatment for patients. Deborah Cohen, ITV News.
Football now, and Manchester City continue their pursuit of league leaders Arsenal as they beat Leeds United away at Elland Road. Rodri fired City ahead late in the first half before Erling Haaland extended the visitors' lead with a pair of goals either side of the hour mark. A well-placed header from Leeds defender Pascal Struck, with less than 20 minutes on the clock, proved no more than a consolation as the match finished 3-1. And finally, the much-admired actor and comedian John Bird has died at the age of 86. He's probably best known for his performances in the TV series Bremner, Bird and Fortune, mercilessly sending up the rich and powerful with his cutting wit and humour. Today, Rory Bremner called him one of the greatest satirists. Here's Martha Fairley on his long career in comedy.
You are an admiral.
I am an admiral. And I wear an admiral's hat.
John Bird had a talent for portraying those in the upper echelons of the establishment.
At the moment, we can afford to either have the carriers or the aircraft, but not both.
And exposing their shortcomings.
The record of computerisation in government departments has not been exactly unblemished, has it?
Patchy?
Rather more than patchy. There's the fiasco of the passport office.
Incompetent politicians, bureaucrats and businessmen were all fair game in the satirical skits he performed with his comedy partner, John Fortune.
Well, please don't go on.
They regularly worked with comedian Rory Bremner, who today paid tribute, saying it's an irony that one of our greatest satirists, so brilliant at portraying ministers, civil servants or high-ranking officials who exuded self-satisfaction, was himself so modest and self-effacing. John Bird had been writing and performing satire since he was at Cambridge University, where he met John Fortune. The pair won a BAFTA for their Long John sketches in 1997. John Bird also made appearances in other shows, including Yes Prime Minister, Morse and the Legal Comedy Chambers.
Everything came in a tin.
Mind you, if the economic crash gets worse, then this is how we're all going to be living. We're all going to be eating out of tins.
If things carry on like they're going, we all could be very poor.
And while Bird and Fortune's middle-class dinner party sketches provided their own social commentary, he will be best remembered as one of the two Johns who ridiculed those in power with his effortless satire.
That you can't make money out of nothing.
Never?
Never, ever. Only a complete idiot would think otherwise. Except just this once. We think we might.
Remembering John Bird, whose death was announced today. And that's it. The weather's next, but from all of us here, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.